Hey everybody, Jake here, and today we're going to take a look at the Twsbi Vac 700R, which is a revision on the Twsbi Vac 700. Slightly different seal on the vacuum, I believe is about the only difference. But this is a fantastic pen at a fantastic price. I do have a different nib on here. This is a Nib Reentry number 7. But this pen is very unique. It is a vacuum filler, which if you're not into fountain pens, I'm sure you've never heard of. And even if you are, you might not have ever dealt with one. There aren't many of them in existence. There's, this one, the Pilot 8 Custom 823, and a few Viscontis that have like a power filler, vacuum filler kind of thing. But this is a fantastic pen. We'll just go over some specs, quick size comparison, like, neutral, dislike, writing sample, and a conclusion for this pen. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First up are going to be the specs. So the overall length of this pen is going to be 147 millimeters, 5.8 inches, closed. And then we're going to have, so it's a fairly large pen, bigger than a lot of run-of-the-mill kind of fountain pens. Not bigger than your higher priced fountain pens, but length of the cap is going to be 65 millimeters, 2.6 inches. And the diameter of the cap is 16 without the clip, 18 millimeters width. Length of the body is going to be 134 millimeters, 5.3 inches. Length of the nib is going to be 24 millimeters, 0.9 inches. And the diameter of the grip is going to be 10.1 millimeters, 0.4 inches if that matters to you. Weight of the pen is 19 grams just the body, 13 grams just the cap, 32 grams overall. That is without ink. That's 1.1 ounces. And the ink capacity is 2.37 milliliters. Goodness. Next up, some size comparisons. Here it is next to the Twsbi 580 All in pink. It is a little bit larger than that, capped of course. And here it is next to the Lamy Safari, a little bit larger than that as well. And last up, the Jinhao X750. So this is a big pen. It's not huge, but it's fairly decent size. Let's go ahead and move these out of the way, and we will do an uncapped comparison so you can see what you'll actually be writing with. So here is the Vac 700R. I keep forgetting that. And then we have the 580. So you can see it's just a tiny bit shorter, uncapped. Then we have the Safari, which is about the same length. And then the Jinhao, which is much, much shorter. So even uncapped, it's a fairly sizable pen. Again, it's not huge. The diameter of the grip isn't up in, Pelican M1000 territory or anything crazy like that. But it's a decent sized pen. And it's a good weight. I like that a lot. So I'm going to do a posted comparison. I never use this pen posted just because of the back weight and the length of the thing, but there it is. And the 580 All, which you shouldn't ever post, but you kind of can, and it's actually longer than the Vac 700 when it is posted because it isn't supposed to. And then the Lamy Safari, which is a fair bit shorter, posted. And then the Jinhao posted. So I wouldn't recommend posting this pen because it becomes a bit unwieldy at that point. It's still usable. Every now and then, if I just think I'm going to lose the cap, I'll post it or whatever, but I generally try to avoid that whenever possible. Go ahead and get those out of the way. Go ahead and cap this pen back. So here it is next to a Pepsi, and this is the NFL Pepsi, so it has some units of measurement. It has some dashes there on the side, and we'll just use those as kind of a baseline, using the larger dashes, of course. This is about 3 of those large dashes length. So if you have any Pepsi cans, very good way to measure it and see how it's going to fit in your hand. Let's go ahead and jump into the like for this pen. First up, this nib I put on there, the Nib Reentry number 6, is beautiful. It is so damn beautiful. It's gorgeous. The tip's like burnt. It's great. On to the Nib Flow and Feed. This writes about like the Twsbi nib did. I just like the look of it better. Also, it came with a broad nib. So that's the only size they had available for sale, so I went ahead and got this one. But the flow is very, very nice. The feed keeps up great. I never really have any issues with hard starts or skips. And this is a medium nib, which is my preference if you ever watch my videos. But the flow is, it can dry up if you don't unscrew the back, which we'll touch on later. But it's the vacuum mechanism is kind of what makes it really interesting. But the nib and flow are fantastic. The feed keeps up very, very well. Next thing I like really is the build quality. Like all Twsbi pens, it's built very, very solidly, and it feels great to write with. The section's nice. It's a good length. There's a step up, which we'll get to later as well, but I don't touch that a whole lot. So it's a good size. It's a good weight. Section's nice. It feels good in your hand, and you really feel like you're getting your value. So next up is going to be kind of the aesthetic of the pen. It's gorgeous. I love Twsbi's demonstrators specifically. They're very well built, even though they look kind of fragile, and the flow is very cohesive. I like it a lot. Next up, it's very easy to disassemble like all Twsbi pens. It comes with the tools you'll need. Next up, the clip. I like the clip. It's very springy. It's not too tight, and it has a decent ramp. The cap band is better made than the Ecos, if that's all you had experience with. Not the cap band, the cap top. The nibs are swappable. The nibs are easily swappable. You can fit any number 6 size nib in here, which is what I've done. Or Twsbi sells replacement nibs. Next up's the filling mechanism. Or actually, since the pen started rolling, let's go and show you this. Actually, the knob on the back is faceted like the 580, so it kind of gives you a roll stop to some degree. It's not great. If you just set it down, it'll roll a little bit, but you know, it helps. Oh, and also, you can post this pen, as I've showed in the demonstration. It kind of fits right past that knob. It doesn't sit on the knob like on the 580, so when you're posting it or unposting it, you don't have to worry about pulling out the vacuum filler or anything crazy like that. But it does have a pretty good ink capacity because of that filling mechanism, and I'm gonna try to kind of demonstrate. So it's about double what a 580 would hold, or at least that's what it appears to be. It does have that giant vacuum rod going through the center, so that takes up a little bit of space, not too much. Let's go ahead and show you the filling mechanism here. So you unscrew this knob on the back, and you can kind of feel the rod being able to move at that point. What you do is you go ahead and pull it all the way out. At this point, you would dip it into your ink, and you want to very, very slowly push it back down when you do go in. But you can see here, once you unscrew it, it has this flat sides where you can take your Twsbi wrench and go ahead and twist and remove it. It is a whole lot easier to put back together than a 580 or an Eco. I'll say that. What you want to do is go ahead and submerge the nib and the section in the ink, and then very, 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 very slowly push that vacuum back in. I'm going to put my hand over here so I don't get ink everywhere in this little demonstration. But you push it back in, and the negative pressure creates suction and sucks the ink up into the vacuum. It can be hard to get a full fill. There are a few tutorials on YouTube on how to do that, but I kind of like not having a full fill so you can see the ink slosh around, but that's just me. On to the neutral. So first up, you have to unscrew that back vacuum part really to write. It does create a seal right before the feed. You can see it kind of there. You have to pull that back in order for ink to get into the feed. If you're just jotting notes, I usually untwist it, let it fill for a second, twist it back up, and then I'm good to go. But if you're going to write for a while, you're going to have to unscrew it. Next up, you can get ink trapped in that cap. That little inside cap seal, the clear one right there, comes about halfway up. You can remove it and clean it out by taking like a number 2 pencil and rubber band and fitting it around it and kind of shoving it in there and pulling it out, but it does trap ink, which gets very annoying because it's a clear pen. Normally you wouldn't see anything like that, but in this one you very certainly do. So, on to the dislike. There's a massive step up. It is huge. I'm not saying that lightly. It's a big step up. Luckily, the section's a fair bit long, and the way my hand sits, it really doesn't bother me. My thumb touches a little, but it's not a huge deal. So it's fine for me, but if you write farther back on your section, you're going to have a very hard time fitting this. Next on the dislike, you'll see that everything's chrome except for the clip. It's a flat, kind of grittier finish, and it really doesn't match with the rest of the pen, which is kind of annoying. On to the writing sample. So again, I have put a different nib on this pen, but it wrote right before I did. It was just a little bit thicker of a line, and Twsbi nibs are excellent, but I fell in love with this Nib reentry nib when I saw it, and I knew I had to get one, and this is a pen I decided to put it on. These are about 15 bucks if you're curious, and you can get them off Goulet, which is where I picked this pen and the nib up from. But it writes very well. These pens are, I assume they're made in Taiwan. Twsbi's a Taiwanese-based company. But this is a medium nib, and it flows very well. The feed keeps up extremely well as long as you keep it saturated. You don't want to leave it screwed in too long. Again, this is a Nib re-entry nib. They're fantastic. I can't express that enough. And they're beautiful, beautiful finishes. It doesn't affect your writing at all. It doesn't feel gritty or anything. Actually, this is a very stiff nib, but it's the smoothest nib I have, hands down. It's insane. I recommend trying one, actually, if you get a chance. And the ink in today's example is Cheyerbon, I believe I'm saying that right, Emerald of Chivor. This is also fantastic ink, and it goes great with this nib. You can't see it very much here, but once the purple and gold start coming out in the ink, it looks great. So on to conclusions. This is a great pen for the price. The price is about $65, which for a vacuum filler is a freaking steal. I like it basically as much as my 580. I couldn't really pick if you asked me to. I do prefer the metal section on the 580, but I also prefer the ink capacity on the 700R. But I highly recommend picking this pen up. If you're in the market for a vacuum filler or want something interesting, go ahead and grab it. Thanks guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and keep an eye out for some upcoming reviews, possibly of ink and other stuff. Thanks. Bye.